Hello everybody, welcome back to Let's Play Suzerain. Let's continue on from where we last left off. So, we're about to have a meeting with the Alliance of Nations, and we're sending our daughter off to somewhere else because we don't want her talking to Mr. Maison. But what do we got going on right now? Okay, we got a couple of things here. What's going on in the news? Chancellor Hegel of Vagslan is a deft strategy. In a deft strategic pivot, is recalibrating the nation's economic ties within the CSP. By tapering off trade with Gomland, Hegel is promoting to strengthen ties with other pack members, reflecting a concerted effort to consolidate this economic future within the sphere. This economic shift may I am not all there today. May serve as a bellwether for internal CSP relations as Hegel navigates through an intricate web of inter-coalition politics. The realignment speaks volumes about the underlying ideological tensions and the grounds of economic diplomacy being played out in the Eastern Bloc. Okay, very cool. So in KLS, Lord Edward and Lady Safina Kotavo have officially invited the entire Rizian royal family and council to attend the uncork ceremony for their coronation wine, Romus the Red. Harvested and bottled in honor of the king, it is to be sampled for the first time at Kotavo Vineyard in Kalis. A number of suites in the vineyard's luxury villa have been reserved for us for the occasion. Well, I won't say no to that when the time comes. Okay. The Skinner cartel has entrenched itself, exploiting the city's role as the key land route between Morella and Palace. Their smuggling operation runs deep, with local officials and law enforcement turning a blind eye under the threat of bribe. The cartel violence escalates and neighborhoods fall under their control. As cartel violence escalates and neighborhoods fall under the control, the city edges closer to collapse. We can launch it. You know what? We can either do it ourselves, order a house Cesaro to handle it. Just for now, just for the time being. Okay, what's going on over here? Beauregards have flagged a growing number of irregularities along the Rizia and Morella frontier. Suspicious patterns of movement and unusual activity near checkpoints have increased. Officials are advising caution, but have yet to identify anything concrete. It's concerning. Presumably, you know, I guess at some point, I probably shouldn't say everything is concerning. There's probably some stuff that is not concerning. A request for cooperation from Valens. Valens intelligence forces have asked for full cooperation in their investigation of the Ziel bombing. This means that Rizian security will be obligated to share any information they have found and vice versa. We are spying on them, right? We'll cooperate. We just don't give them everything we have. You know? Just lie about all the stuff we actually have. Belakia has recently hosted a prestigious regional environmental conference organized by Duke Romus Toras. Do we know who this is? Look at that man's hair. The event brought together scientists, researchers, and journalists from all around the world to discuss conservation, land preservation, and sustainable resource management. During the conference, Duke Romus gave a presentation on the underwater current that he discovered in 1930. To conclude the event, Duke Romus welcomed guests to the renowned Grand Valkyr Hotel, known for its luxurious amenities and iconic casino, proving a fitting end to the conference. Okay, very cool. Average rent doubling every 18 months. The average rent per square meter in the Rizian capital is skyrocketing rapidly, with experts estimating doubling every 18 months with no sign of slowing down. Not only are prices on the rise, a severe lack of housing stock due to the deadly combination of the city's growing population with market speculation has resulted in an average search time for new apartments reaching almost 8 months. Well, just own a house. Just have property. Bezek authorities have extended their gratitude to the Rizian counterparts for agreeing to cooperate with the Ziel bombing investigation, calling it an important sign of goodwill from the Rizians. I will invade Ziel. If push, I mean, are we more? What's their power level? Strong. Okay. I mean, I have many hours in Hoi 4, so we should be okay. It was a rainy day in Kairut. Only one of only a handful of islands experienced per year. The sound of the falling drop. The sound of the falling drops in the Alliance of Nations dome made for an unexpected soothing backdrop to what I could tell was going to be a tense session. I sat with Lorento and the rest of the Rizian delegation in the half-full assembly hall. Today's session was to focus on the South Merkopa only. Looking around, I could see representatives from leaders of Valens, Morella, Dirdia, Lesbia. Duke Axel Reinhardt and Patricio Alvarez entered late, deep in conversation. They nodded at each other and took seats with their respective delegations. Looks like those two lovebirds. They clearly plan to put up a united front. It'll be hard to argue against them. Are you well, Your Majesty? Your father always had a case of nerves for these sessions. Is there really only like 5 countries here to arbitrate? Could we not? Is there not like a? Is this not like a full? I'm fine, Mr. Escabel. I appreciate your concern. We turned our attention to the front of the room as President Elfrian Nines entered. I hereby welcome our esteemed delegates from the nations of South Merkopa to this special session. We have many leaders to hear from today, so I'll keep opening remarks to a minimum. First on today's docket is Prime Minister Alame Sultana of the Republic of Morella. Everyone hates me, though. That's also an issue. Prime Minister Alame Sultana strode up to the podium. She had to lower the microphone to reach it. Big trouble in a small package. I just hope she keeps her address short, too. The Morellan leader greeted the assembly. Her voice had a melodic lit to it that I associated with Canal. Mr. President, esteemed leaders and distinguished guests, it is an honor to speak to these hallowed halls for the first time. I come before you as a representative of the new Morelia, a country committed to breaking free from the shackles of a repressive past. A country that is now truly aligned with the AEN values of justice, solidarity, and human dignity. The one that is proud to build bridges with those who share our vision for a more equal society. She nodded towards the upper seats of the assembly room. I look behind me to see Vaxlanian Chancellor Embark Hegel applauding fiercely. I knew today would be exciting, but this is another level. Chancellor Hegel isn't on today's program, but I wouldn't rule out an impromptu speech. It is time for a transition for Morella. But as we redefine our principles and our partnerships, one fact becomes abundantly clear. We can no longer abide the senseless exploitation of our land, people, and resources. Okay. I knew this would be about the international trade zone. She hasn't taken her eye off the topic since her election. For too long, our so-called partners in the Manthium International Trade Zone have dug the ground out from underneath us. We've allowed them to ravage our soil and abuse our workers, while reaping more and more of their fair share of the profits. They send security forces to guard their gold, yet they lead the rest of Morella to the mercy of dirty and terrorists. Meanwhile, the shocking lack of mining regulations in countries such as Rizia show that they are no less careless at home than they are abroad. Why is she naming us? What about the corruption of lesbian industries? Morella's international profile isn't large enough to go after a country of lesbian stature yet. Morella calls on the Alliance of Nations to recognize our human rights struggle, to accept that the Meftian ITZ is to continue, and any wealth from it generated must be reinvested into the Morellan people. Brava, Madame Prime Minister! Chancellor Hegel is standing now. The other AN guests turn their heads in his direction. As fellow stewards of the International Trade Zone and fellow soldiers in the fight against imperialism, the nation of Vaxlan supports Morella in its journey. Are you sure he can't get her into the CSP? Not until Morella improves his military, which may be the reason for the sudden interest in nationalization. Hegel sat back down. Nine's motion for the Prime Minister Sultana to continue. I thank all of you for your attention today, and I look forward to forging a bright future for the people of Southern Merkopa. All of them. Lorenzo turned to me as the Morellan Prime Minister wrapped up her speech and returned to her seat. It seems like the trade zone is going to be more of a sticking point than I thought. Nothing's going to get decided here today anyway. It's all talk. I'm just curious about what Rizia thinks about her terrorist mark, but we won't have to wait long to find out. Supreme Wiseman Jorga Azmal stepped onto the stage, dressed in a ceremonial robe with a silver trim. Before speaking, he waved his hand in the air 6 times, representing the 6 pillars of Golkandism. I'm surprised he flew out here. Rizia Supreme Wiseman normally refrains from speaking in public. Now, whatever he says, it must be important. I admit, I'm very curious. The Supreme Wiseman spoke with a deep baritone. Dear great and powerful leaders of Southern Merkopa, in the name of Prophet Varric, I salute all of you. I am humble enough to know that we men alone cannot decide the fate of the continent, not without God's guidance. And it is God who has guided me here today. We are one of the few nations brave enough to let themselves be ruled by his law, but we are also a country like any other. Yet our attempts to find common ground with our neighbors have been rebuffed over and over, solely on account of our beliefs. I was looking over to where Alma Sultana was sitting. She was openly scowling. The Prime Minister Morella accuses us of violating her borders. And yet, it was not long ago that we were once one country. Because of arbitrary lines that have been drawn, my people can no longer visit the graves of their ancestors, or the shrines where they once worshipped. Every single one of us, Daria, Morella, Rizia, Valand, we all have different views, but we are all united in the united by the divine path of Saint Beric. And it is my humble request that we Doridians be allowed to continue to follow the path that we have had for centuries. The gross oversimplification. His path is not ours. He's ignoring the diversion within Wakasism. Yes, but we do share many of the same holy sites. On that note, concerns have been raised about the missile test my country has been conducting. Our aim is to only ever be able to protect our people and way of life. It is God's will that we use the technology not for evil, but to contribute to global security and stability. Almost Satana started laughing. It isn't funny, it's scary. What's scary is if he finds the wrong buyer for his technology. Oswald put his hands on the podium. How far we have fallen, that the only country in South Merkopa where the pillars of Neridi still stand tall is being traded as a laughing stock. Y'all speak of superpowers, but I know there's only one superpower that we need to worry about. He points upwards. The sooner our nations come together under him, the sooner true peace and prosperity can be realized. The Supreme Wise Man Asmal made a sign pillar again as he exited the stage. The chandelier is a superpower? Lorenzo held back a laugh. Oh, but now it's time for a real heavy artillery. He gestured to the aide and began taking notes as President Nines announced Victor Smolak. There were some whispers from within the room as Wayland's president stepped to the podium. He silenced them with a theatrical shushing motion, then continued. Dear fellow leaders, I wish I could say that I was happy to be here, standing at one of the 6 proud nations of Southern Merkopa, and yet I feel only sorrow. Sorrow that our magnificent region has let itself be torn apart by forces greater than ourselves. I speak, of course, of Arcasia and Rumburg. Conveniently leading out United Katana. Yes, it doesn't count as a superpower if it is, it doesn't count as a superpower is his patron. Convinced of the idea that might makes right, they sow discord amongst us in order to strengthen themselves. And Valand, poor, war-torn Valand, must pay the highest price. Who can deny ATO's involvement in the Valand Civil War, or Rumburg's shipment of arms to the Bloody Shepherdess movement? Nobody in the hall said a word. Victor looked up at me directly. And it is to my everlasting regret that when Valand was at its weakest, our direct neighbor opted for an alliance with a nation that had sought to harm us at every turn. I do not blame the great Kingdom of Rizia for his decision, but neither can I ignore that for the past 20 years, Rumburg has maintained a presence in both our north and our south. In light of that, I simply cannot accept that Zeal bombing. The most heinous terrorist act to occur in Valand since the Civil War was the work of a few rogue agents. Especially since the government agencies investigating the incident seem to be more interested in pinning the blame on Valand than uncovering the truth. What is to stop such violence from reoccurring? What will happen to the Vazneks who have already made the other home once Rizia, and by proxy, Rumburg regains control of the region? I am a man who respects the rule of law, yet I cannot put my country people at risk by abandoning the territory while these questions still hang in the air. He wouldn't dare. This is why I've decided to invoke the AN Threat Migration Protocol for the treaty obligation to delay the return of Ziel until the risk is neutralized. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the assembly. I felt many a pair of eyes on me. Is that a real thing? It is, Your Majesty, but no nation has ever invoked it before. The murmurs of the room were growing louder. President Nines banged the gavel twice for silence. If I may continue, it is not my intention to keep custody of the Elf region forever. The sooner that safety and security are restored, the sooner we may begin preparing for an orderly transition. I hope that swift cooperation with His Majesty King Romus and my fellow South Merkopa nations, together we are strong. He raised his arm in expectation for applause. None came. None of our neighbors were openly taking Valand's side. That bodes well for us. Victor shook his head and left the stage. Damn it, what do I do? You don't have a chance to comment soon enough. I'll get in touch with Valand's foreign ministers as soon as we get back home. There may still be a way for us to straighten this out. Now let's see if Prime Minister Alaves has any words on the subject. Prime Minister Patricio Alaves was next. He straightened up his tie as he approached the microphone. Mr. President, if I may start by voicing my heartfelt support for this fine organization and the role that it plays. Were it not for the Alliance of Nations, there would be no way to stop our country's petty quarrels from devouring the world. Which, ladies and gentlemen, is precisely what is in danger of happening today. The nation of Lesbia is deeply concerned about the deployment of Rizian naval forces around the Arias gas fields in the Ancian Sea. The use of military force to occupy a disputed territory goes directly against AN's most cherished principles. It is essential that Rizia respect the legal process and accept the results of arbitration, whatever they may be. Such blatant act of intimidation shows that the kingdom has no intention of doing so. We stand ready to aid for the peaceful settlement of the dispute, and we beg that the AN does not allow the Rizia show of force to affect its judgment. For our part, it's clear that due to the small size and limited habitability of the Rizian island of Calabies, the Grand Duchy Palace has greater claim to the region than that of the Kingdom of Rizia. Should I say something, Mr. Escabel? I don't see a point, but if you like. Malarkey! Everyone turned to look at the Voxlandian Chancellor. Hegel bowed his head. Forgive my ill-timed cough. It was a terrible cold today. Thank you, Mr. Chancellor. He gave me a significant look, then sat back in his chair. Well, that brings me to another point I was going to make today. I speak, of course, about the conspiracy to nationalize the Meftian International Trade Zone. Chancellor Hegel stood up again. Alvarez ignored him. Let us not for one second believe that Morella is acting of its own accord. The long arm of the Katanan Security Pact is behind this. By giving in to Prime Minister Salatan's demands, the nation of Lesbian Rizia would be effectively paying to increase the United Katana's sphere of influence. I know I'm not alone in wanting to avoid these dangerous consequences. He looked at the Palazian delegation. Reinhardt and his ministers politely applauded. I will remind Morella and Voxland the Alliance of Nations is watching, as is the ATO. Any attempts to seize the international trade zone by unlawful means will be met with retaliation. That'll be all. Voxland is certainly an active participant today. Either that or Hegel really does have a cold. Looks like Peleus is next. Duke Reinhardt stepped up to the podium. With the spotlight on the Palazian leader, I could see that he had stubble on his chin and dark circle under his eyes. I'll say nothing. Lorenzo raised his eyebrows at Duke's appearance. I didn't comment. Duke Reinhardt cleared his throat and shuffled a few papers around. Yeah, so he's like, ah, shit. Like, this is actually, like, really bad that we're in this kerfuffle. As a leader of the youngest nation in Southern Merkopa, I am humbled to be here in this great hall. I'm aware that everyone else in this room will spend their lives preparing to be in power, whereas me, I'd just say, calling me Delante would be generous. I heard laughter from around the hall. I'll laugh myself. But just because I am inexperienced does not mean I am naive. The Kingdom of Rizia has deployed a naval fleet to the waters of my waters of my Grand Duchy, supposedly in self-defense. And yet we know what happened the last time Rizia sent military units to Peleus. I believe that a coronation of His Majesty King Romus heralded a fresh start for our two nations. But I believed wrong. The incident in Valent has proved the lengths to which this dangerous new monarch will go. What incident? Wait, what did I do? In its context, it is vital that my emerging nation assert its sovereignty. And I hope the Alliance of Nations Arbitration Committee sees through the kingdom's poorly justified infringement of our maritime borders. And we invite our other colleagues in this esteemed organization to engage with us as equals, irrespective of the way that our neighbors have treated us. Alvarez rose from his seat. Well said, Your Grace. I'm not gonna speak up. Good, Your Majesty. Don't play the aggressor. Rest assured that we will resist any further attempts to bully us into submission, and furthermore, criminal! Duke Reinhardt looked shaken by the interjection. That didn't sound like a cough, Chancellor. No, I cannot stay silent while you make your entitled demands. Your family used Peleus as a base to pillage the Zian continent, and everything you had, you stole from someone else. And rather than give it back when the revolution forced your hand, you begged the capitalist swine of Lesbia to help you hold on to your ill-gotten gains. I beg your pardon, Chancellor Hegel, but I am not responsible for my family's sins. But you're happy to profit from them now, aren't you? Up there in your glass castle, I'll tell you, Duke Reinhardt, the cracks are beginning to show. I'll applaud a little bit, and realize the Chancellor harbored such lingering resentment over Peleus. I wonder if we can use that to our advantage. President Nines, this man is abusing his guest privileges. Can he be removed? Chancellor Hegel, this is your last warning. Do not interrupt today's session, or you will not get any crispy fried chicken. Very well. I've said all I needed to say. He glared out at his seat as Duke Reinhardt finished his speech. He tapped the mic nervously. I see that the Chancellor is still resentful that the people of Peleus chose to the firm leadership of the Reinhardt family over the chaos of revolution. Yes, the Grand Duchy aided in the colonious aims of the Valagos Empire, but like Vagaland, we are ready to put the past behind us and look towards the future. We simply have a different vision. Peles may not have earned its spot in its assembly, but it is my hope that it will. His voice had regained its full confidence now. And any nation that attempt to stop us from doing so will be met with a strong and resolute response. He rushed back to his seat as chatter erupted from the rest of the assembly. Certainly been an eventful session. Your Majesty, I hope you're ready for your speech. I'm as ready as I'll ever be. I took a deep breath as President Nines announced my name. Lorenzo gave me a quick smile of encouragement as I left my seat. I stepped up to the podium to the smattering of applause. The delegates from Valen and Peles stayed pointedly silent. You know what? Most respected leaders of Southern Merkopa, you've heard enough today about how important the Alliance of Nation is, so I will get straight to the point. I'm aware that the comments made by President Victor Smolak earlier in the session demand a response from me. I do want it. Private dialogue. The AN threat mitigation protocol can only be invoked under extreme circumstances. And in my opinion, the Zeal incident is not one of them. The bombing was a tragedy. However, my kingdom has taken its necessary steps to ensure that it will not be repeated. Willingness to disregard the terms of the legal document has chilling implications. Valen's willingness to disregard the terms of a legal document has chilling implications for its relationship with the rest of the continent. We're not fighting for a sliver of Rizia. We're fighting for the future of Southern Merkopa. Let's see. Who do we want to appeal to? Valen's occupation of Ziel represents an invasion of Duridicity into the lands of... I do not ask for your commitment at this time. Only that you will support Rizia when the moment arrives. Moving on. I cannot ignore the presence of Chancellor Hegel and his newfound interest in our neighbor Morella. I saw Hegel lean forward in his seat intently. Rizia Morella has maintained good relations for centuries. Bagslot influence. You know what? I may not share Morella's worldview, yet I believe our citizens' struggle are one of the same. Pillaging must stop. As Morella's longtime allies, we are prepared to offer what assistance we can in building a more equitable MITZ. Prime Minister Sultana began applauding. Hegel looked pleasantly surprised. I am not opposed to reopening trade zone negotiations, as long as Rizia continues to be able to provide for its citizens. Prime Minister Alavrez and the lesbian delegation were speaking in worried whispers. President Nines again gestured for silence, then motioned for me to continue. Yes! Religious travelers. You know what? I also stand with Morella against the dirty and extremists who seek to infiltrate their borders. We perverted the teachings. The division of the former Empire of Meridia has pitted brother against brother, and the violence must end. Scattered applause came from around the assembly hall. Finally, a word regarding Peles. Despite Duke's claims, Rizia not the aggressor in the situation. Self-determination. I mean, self-determination. I don't know which one of these I want to choose. A quarrel. We're not the aggressor. We're treating him as... I don't like this one. I don't like one. You know, despite the Duke's claims, Rizia is not the aggressor in this situation. We're not even asking for the whole thing. We only want our half. Our country's not even asking for ownership of the territory. We only got our rightful half. I'm convinced that a peaceful compromise can be reached with the AN's help. We do have a right. Like, as far as I'm aware, I don't see why the size of the island would matter when it comes to exclusive economic jurisdiction. As a signee of the AN Directive of Offshore Resources, we have a right to the undersea gas within 200 kilometers of our coast, no matter which coast. We're counting on the arbitrators to make the right decision here. As for the blockade for the gas field by our Navy, it will continue for as long as it has to. We promise everyone. Chancellor Hegel, I was inspired by your courage in confronting lesbian and Pelasian delegation today. I paused to look at Hegel. His face didn't give anything away. We may have more in common than either of us suspected. Is he with us? I will not presume to ask for Vaxlan's support, but you have my respect. Hegel's expression stayed the same, and he nodded. President Nine's motion at the clock. My speech had gone over its time. I will conclude with these words. Was wrong. It's not the superpower setting it apart. It is ourselves. President Smolak was wrong. It is not the superpowers that are tearing us apart. We're doing it to ourselves. But I hold out hope that we may find a way to back each other. Thank you. I sat down, and Aide handed me a glass of water. Well done, Your Majesty. It'll take a while to digest the ramifications. You know, let's update on this once we get back to Rizia. Filing back out to the assembly hall, I noticed that rain on the dome had stopped. Another sunny day in Constantium. And with a sunny day in Constantium, it's going to be a super sunny day here on the Anthem channel, because we're going to be ending the episode here. But if you enjoyed, thumbs up. Not doing it, thumbs down. You want to see more, subscribe, and goodbye.